Fox News alert: a Georgia grand jury charging former President Trump and 18 others, including Rudy Giuliani and Mark Meadows, over their alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. It's the former president's fourth indictment as he seeks another term in the White House. You are watching Fox and Friends First on this Tuesday morning. I'm Carly Shimkus.
And I'm Todd Pyro. Trump has until next Friday to surrender to authorities who say he will be booked and a mugshot will be released. That is different from previous indictments. The DA says she's looking to start the trial within the next 6 months, and that is not sitting well with some on the right.
I'm pissed. I'm pissed at these over and over and over again. This is disgraceful. Our country is over 200 years old. We have never once indicted a former president or a candidate and a leading candidate for president. And this is Joe Biden and this is the Democrats weaponizing the justice system because they're afraid of the voters. This is disgraceful. It is wrong, and it is an abuse of power by angry Democrats who have decided the rule of law doesn't matter to them anymore.
Brooke Singman spoke exclusively with former President Trump last night, and she joins us now with his response. Brooke.
Hey, good morning, you guys. I did speak exclusively with the former president last night, who says his fourth indictment comes during a dark period for our country, but he won't let it stop him. Now, President Trump told me, quote, this politically inspired indictment, which could have been brought close to 3 years ago, was tailored for placement right smack in the middle of my political campaign, where I am leading all Republicans. Now, late last night, Trump was indicted by Fulton County, Georgia DA Fani Willis, along with these 18 others, including his one-time personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, attorneys John Eastman, Sidney Powell, and former Trump White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows. Now, these charges come after a years-long criminal investigation led by Georgia state prosecutors over his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election in the state. The charges include violating the Georgia RICO Act. Now, this is a law originally created to take down mobsters. It allows the state to bundle together what may seem like unrelated crimes committed by different people if those crimes seem to be in support of a common objective, like overturning an election. He's also facing charges for solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer, among many other charges, including charges from his previous indictments like conspiracy to commit false statements and filing false documents.
The participants in association took various actions in Georgia and elsewhere to block the counting of the votes of the presidential electors who were certified as the winners of Georgia's 2020 general election.
The indictment alleges Trump, with the help of others, knowingly and willfully joined in conspiracy to change the election results in his favor. Trump's team telling Americans to pay attention to how last night's indictment unfolded. Listen.
The fact that we have people standing by and leaks to the press before I've even seen his indictment, before the indictments even come out, is exactly the problem that we have in this country at this moment. It's a politicization. And Fani, by the way, on Thursday and Friday updated her campaign website. Has anybody spoken about that? It's political lawfare.
The district attorney is giving all defendants until next Friday at noon to surrender, and that is just 2 days after President Trump could be on stage at the first Republican presidential debate. But, guys, he hasn't decided if he's going to attend just yet.
Kicking us off, Brooke Singman, thank you. Let's bring in constitutional attorney and former member of President Trump's transition team, Mark Smith. Mark, Alan Dershowitz said the tactics that Trump's team used in Georgia were the exact same tactics that he and his team used in Florida in 2000 on the Democratic side to try and contest the election there in Florida for one Al Gore. So is challenging an election now illegal because Trump did it? And if so, I guess Stacey Abrams, the current governor of Georgia in her mind, also needs to be indicted. What say you, Mark?
Yeah, great observations, Todd. You're exactly right. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution specifically says that we have the right to petition the government in all its forms if we have a grievance. Now, there's no dispute that Donald Trump and his legal team disputed who won the Georgia electoral votes in 2020. That was a legitimate fight. They took it to the courts. They took it to the Congress. They took it to the state legislature, i.e. the government, which they were allowed to do under the First Amendment. And when you read this 97-page indictment, Todd, you really see, you read this and you say to yourself, geez, it looks like that all they did was they were petitioning the government because they disagreed with what was going on. And ultimately, they lost in Congress on January 6th. But how all of a sudden, petitioning the government somehow becomes a crime and a criminal enterprise, which is what this indictment says, it's really bewildering.
Well, on that note, 19 defendants, 41 counts in all. All defendants are being charged with racketeering. And this indictment, Willis says the defendants and co-conspirators constitute a criminal organization. Can you explain what racketeering is and how the DA is using it in this case?
Yeah, the way to think about racketeering or RICO is you have a comprehensive and multi-part, multi-step, multi-person conspiracy to commit some crime. Usually, for example, think of it as a ring where everyone is in the business of selling drugs at different levels. You have the drug lord and you have people selling the drugs on the street. That's the notion of what a criminal enterprise and a racketeering enterprise is designed for. So what they're really saying here, Carly, is that President Trump was the head of a criminal enterprise designed to overthrow the election in Georgia in 2020. But again, it's the world's worst criminal conspiracy, as I see it, because he was telling everyone every step of the way his plans, why he thought he had won, why he thought that Congress should do what it did, or what it should do from his point of view in terms of auditing the results and whatnot. So it's the world's worst criminal conspiracy because every single step of the way he was saying what he was doing and why he was doing it. And again, that indictment, while it has a lot of criminal language in it, it really just describes a legal process that they were fighting because they disagreed with what was going on with the election. Rightly or wrongly, they had the right to petition the government and raise their issues, which they did and ultimately lost, but they were allowed to argue it.
Yeah, it seems clear that using Georgia's RICO is an attempt to bring in as many defendants as possible in order to get some, if not all, of those defendants to flip to ultimately get their number one target, Donald Trump, who, by the way, is running in the 2024 presidential election, in case you didn't know that. One more on this, Mark. Fani Willis wants all these charges with all these defendants wrapped up in 6 months. I've heard from some people, Kash Patel included. We all know Kash. RICO in Georgia, or if not in the federal world, takes about 2 to 4 years to prosecute a case. She wants all this stuff wrapped up in 6 months. So in what fantasy world, Mark, does she exist?
Yeah, it's a total fantasy. A RICO case like this with the number of defendants, the number of charges, the 97 pages of allegations will literally take years to process through the system. There will be motions to dismiss the indictment. There will be interlocutory appeals. There will have to be massive discovery. Keep this in mind, Todd, that the government has literally spent 2 to 3 years investigating all these facts. They just handed this indictment to all these defendants. Now they need approximately the same amount of time, if you think about it, to do the investigation because they're starting from scratch. So just add all that up, and you're looking at a trial literally years from today. 6 months is definitely not going to happen, and I'm sure she knows it.
Yeah, and one of the other strange things that took place yesterday is that Fulton County posted the indictment on their website before the grand jury even started voting. So the county clerk's office is calling that a fictitious document, but never said why it was posted on their website. And the grand jury issued arrest warrants for all that are charged. DA Willis is giving defendants the opportunity to surrender by noon on Friday, the 25th of August. So we are just getting started in this one. I think there are going to be a lot of questions as to why that indictment was posted before the grand jury even voted.
Well, Fani Willis said she has no idea how the whole clerk's office works, which I find fascinating because any lawyer who's ever filed anything typically knows how a clerk's office works, and presumably as the DA, you have filed something in the past.
Mark, thank you so much for waking up early and joining us. We always appreciate you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.